Welcome to the Utterly Indispensable podcast by Key Coaching. Today, I'm talking to James Miles of the Mortgage Quarter. James runs a successful mortgage brokerage business. And it was a great opportunity to talk to James about all things mortgages and, of course, touch on that relationship between mortgage brokers and estate agents. I hope you enjoy the conversation. James, from the Mortgage Quarter, thank you for joining me today on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem, Rob. Good to see you.
And you, yeah, it's really good to catch up. What I wanted to do today, if possible, is have a bit of a chat, all things mortgages.
Yeah.
Learn what we can from you.
Yeah, know a little bit about that.
I think there's a bit of a conversation about estate agencies and mortgage advisors.
Yeah.
And we can probably do a couple of rounds of that and see where we get to at the end.
Of course you can, yeah.
But before we start all that, what I would love to know about is your journey. How did you get here and sort of a bit about where you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose start right at the beginning. So left college.
Yeah.
About 15, going a bit further, about 18 years ago now.
Okay. And what did you want to do when you left college? What was the big plan then?
I either wanted to go down the accountancy route.
Okay.
So I always liked numbers.
Okay.
Or I wanted to be one of those guys on the stock market, trading.
Okay.
Up in London. So that was my aim. So without knowing too much about it back then, I thought, let's go to a bank. So there wasn't really any job sites then. So I wrote to about 30 banks, and the majority of them were around Exeter. So actually helped with my mother. We wrote letters out to all of them, and then I had Halifax and Nationwide come back to me, and they invited me in for an interview.
So even as a sort of 17, 18-year-old, you're leaving college, you were pretty proactive.
Yeah, proactive. So I did college, got a couple A levels.
Okay.
Didn't quite make one of the lessons that I took on. I didn't really enjoy that. I think because I got a lot of free time, I wanted to be out there. I was excited by business. And I thought, right, I need to get into that world and start learning more. And I guess at that age, I was probably looking for the income as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, right, let's do the next step. I don't want to go into further education. I sort of knew a little bit about qualifications in industries. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. In fact, I do remember I definitely didn't want to do mortgage advice back then.
Okay, why not?
I think when going to the bank, I was more on the looking at financial advice side.
So investments?
Investments, yeah. I thought that excited me.
Okay.
Then I found out a bit more and I realised it didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went off to work for the Halifax?
Halifax, I started on checkouts.
Okay.
Which I thought that was a great, shiny banking job.
Yeah.
Family really proud. Let's go work for a bank.
You've made it in the world.
I've made it. Little did I know, it was a sales job. So my job was not only to obviously cashier, but it was mainly to talk to clients or customers, as we call them then, and refer them off to financial advisors, mortgage advisors, to try and review their finances, shall we say.
I love the image that lots of people have of a bank. So I meet obviously lots of typically estate agents and their little businesses, and they're typically small businesses, certainly compared with the huge banks that we've both worked for.
Yeah.
And they all think of this big shiny bank as being organised and structured. And look at you laughing already.
You were the manager, Rob.
I remember it being chaotic. I remember I think my businesses subsequently from the bank are better ran. It's probably easier to run. It is easier to run a much smaller business.
Of course.
But I think of some of those managers that we had.
Well, we used to have so many staff back then.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I was in a quite large branch when I started. There's probably 50 members of staff.
Yep.
There's probably less than 10 in a day now.
Yeah.
Obviously, things have changed a lot. But you'd look to a job at a bank, you'd think that's a very good standing job, but there was no qualification.
Yeah.
I would say there's probably little training back then. There was a lot more as I moved on and very good training. So probably worth saying that. But at the start, it was sort of like, right, you need to hit these targets. What are we going to do for that? And it was sort of like every morning, this is the plan. Let's go out and hit it. It was a bit like how maybe people think of an estate agent.
Yes.
I guess.
Well,
that's what it's like back years ago.
Yeah, well, at the bank, I remember us having huddles.
Yeah, I say.
And we'd have huddles, we'd have a morning meeting, And then we'd get together 3 times a day, one mid-morning, one at sort of mid-afternoon, and one at the end of the day.
That's right, yeah.
All round a whiteboard, so it was all really visual. But as a sales tool, that really worked, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that does go a bit array sometimes. So when you get setting up your own business, and when you speak to other business owners, and we move away from the corporate world, we always think, what did we used to not like?
Yeah.
Huddles, probably, because you're getting made to take ownership of what maybe you haven't done or you haven't hit your target.
Yeah.
So when we go into our own business, we probably go, right, no meetings, brilliant, it's my business. But actually, they do hold value.
Yeah.
Maybe in a different format and a different tone. But they are important to give you a bit of focus still, I'd say.
Yeah, because I think targets were probably mismanaged within the bank. From both extremes. We went from one point where we were targeted and they did terrible things, like they put a turnip next to the cashier who did the worst.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, that's just horrific, isn't it? And then you had the other extreme where they suddenly decided, no targets.
Yeah.
We're not going to measure a thing. Well, you're going to measure it, but don't tell anybody you're measuring it. It's craziness.
Yeah, they used to do that, didn't they? So, yeah, and not everyone was target driven. I think reward in the banks back then, something needed to change because you hit your target, but they always wanted one more.
Yeah.
So I think and it still happens in some businesses now, they always want that extra part. And that's where the job satisfaction reduces.
Okay.
And then good people leave.
Yeah.
Like how many good people do we see leave? And you think, wow, that's a massive cog in the team that we wanted to keep.
But most of the people I knew from my bank days who have left have all done better.
Yeah, you rarely hear them go, I wish I was back.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody.
Why do you think that is?
Well, yeah, I think that's probably because it wasn't the greatest working environment at times.
Yeah, exactly. But then I suppose some of the traits were good, what we were learning, I guess. And that's why they've succeeded, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, they're still there. But it's interesting, isn't it? They don't, because they could never really work out how they made money, which made it difficult. They couldn't work out. Now they believe that mortgages are their best value product, don't they? Well, they seem to. Well, once upon a time, they used to believe that financial services were their best value product.
Yeah.
But then they sold all their financial services businesses or outsourced it.
Yeah.
At one stage, they seemed to think, obviously insurance policies have been big ones, but they never sort of concentrated particularly around savings or those sort of things, did they? It was some of the products they sold around bank accounts. Savings, if anything, came at the bottom of the list.
Well, those reward accounts,
yes,
package accounts, which I suppose will sure come up in future years, I would have thought, as a
the
PPI type claim. But I think what we've seen probably a change in is banks focusing on existing clients more.
Right.
Because they never used to value that, did they?
No.
If you have an existing customer come in to review their mortgage, go away, go on the phone, go online.
So, because that's an interesting point, because one of the things I would criticise banks and building societies or lenders in general for, that if you're a brand new customer, you can get a better deal than if you're an existing customer. Has that stopped now?
I wouldn't say it's stopped, because just before this meeting, I've seen a client this morning and I've compared the new client deal to their existing one.
Yeah.
They're very similar, shall I say, but what we've seen in the mortgage world anyway, that lenders are definitely focused on keeping their clients happy now.
Right.
And they want to keep that business because they're not paying out to bring them on board.
Yeah.
There's less work at their head office now. There's less legal work. So the rates can sometimes be better for existing clients. And that's probably off the back of the climate we're in with the interest rates the way they are and how volatile the markets are.
I mean, we both know from running much smaller businesses that existing customers are better for making money because the cost of acquisition of a customer is expensive, isn't it? Every new customer costs you a lot in marketing, effort, time, and all of those things. So it always seemed crazy to me that mortgage lenders would offer new customers more and it was almost like bailing out water with a sieve, wasn't it?
I think maybe they take it for granted that if they bring a customer in, then that customer would never leave.
Yeah.
And hopefully just take whatever rate they got given in the future.
Yeah.
Which I think probably borrowers, but just the general public are probably more savvy now.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, there's loads of sites out there, money saving expert, Martin Lewis, he's out there shouting about things. Not always right. But
I know you mortgage brokers have a thing about
yeah,
Martin.
we've got to think about him. But I suppose it's a good thing. It starts a conversation. People are talking about finances more.
Yeah.
So they are more savvy to move. So I think that's where we've seen a turn. Being a small business owner, I think that's our biggest aim. Look after our existing clients. You know, they're going to hopefully come back to us. We can help them throughout their whole life.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're going to recommend us, which is the best type of business we can get in.
My advocates, I used to call those.
Yeah, fantastic.
You can set your advocates out there and they just go and tell everybody. It's the greatest business, isn't it? When you turn up or meet them and they say, oh yeah, this person's recommended me.
Exactly. And like being in the local area, you're going out, you're meeting these people, you're bumping into them as well. Like what a good feeling it is when you see your clients that are your friends really, and you're helping them with their finances.
Interesting. With our enthusiasm for mortgages, we leapt straight into mortgages. So how did you end up being with the Halifax to having your own mortgage brokers?
So after, I suppose, being an apprentice, I guess, at the cashier stage, went on to do savings, bank accounts.
Yep.
And at 21, I did my CMAP qualification, which, yeah, luckily passed straight away.
Flying colours, I assume.
Flying colours, went through, obviously spent a bit of time on that. Then I was at Halifax for 10 years in total.
Okay.
So in Halifax, you'd move around a lot around Devon, I suppose. Exeter was my main base. That was the largest office. So worked there for many years. Got a bit disillusioned.
Okay.
Lloyd's bought them out.
Yeah.
I was looking for other roles with Lloyd's. Didn't really get the opportunity, unfortunately.
Yep.
Where they always explain.
Unfortunately?
Well, I suppose I thought that at the time.
Yeah.
And that really forced my hand because they said you need experience to get the next job, which you never had. So I got fed up. So me and my business partner, Mick, we worked in the same office.
Yeah.
So we come up with this great plan. Let's leave with no money, or maybe a little bit behind us, but with a plan that we'd go self-employed.
Did one of you manage to get made redundant? Did you manage to do that?
I was fortunate.
Well, yeah, I was desperate to get made redundant. I just wouldn't, but I knew they were after me to get rid of me. So.
I was so happy. So I sort of knew it was coming in.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Mick held on for me, so I got the redundancy.
Yeah.
So I was very good of him. He never forgets that one.
Okay.
So I owe him
He
for
reminds
that.
you of that constantly, doesn't
It
he?
reminds me of that. So our initial thought was, right, let's go out and do it ourselves, because I thought I've built up enough knowledge. I've got a great network around me. I feel like I've got a bit of a plan.
Yep.
To work with some agents as well was my idea. So I joined a network, Mortgage Advice Bureau.
Yep.
Mick did the same.
Yep.
And within about 6 months, probably sooner, we were working at home and we were ringing each other every day going, we hate this.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't like it.
Yeah.
We'd been in a busy office. We didn't like working at home. We didn't like working away from people. We were quite close, good friends, and we were talking to each other most days. So we had a plan. Let's set up our own business.
Okay.
And that's what we did.
Brilliant. And here you are. So tell us about your business today.
Yeah, so the mortgage quarter. So we've been running 6 to 7 years. Started off in a small office, just me and Mick.
Yep.
Grown to a team of about 15 now.
Wow.
Mainly focused around Exeter and Devon.
Yep.
But we got advisors down to Southampton, down in Cornwall. But we give advice all around the country now. Like,
Yeah, it's so easy nowadays, isn't it, to give advice
video
on.
calls. But yeah, it's gone really well. We've got a really good link up with the Exeter College where we take apprentices on.
Right.
We've built a really nice team. Turnover of staff's fairly low.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good place to be, really, and we really enjoy it.
Okay, that's brilliant. So where do most of your leads come from? Is that from estate agents?
I think, go back to what I just said there, so your main leads, if you like, clients, they're coming from your recommendations.
Right, okay.
Most definitely. We're still getting recommended. We actively ask our existing clients, would you recommend us?
Yep.
Give them a survey, tell us what they think. Would you recommend us? Is there anyone you would recommend us to?
Okay.
Okay. They might not do it initially, but we feel that probably sticks in their mind and they will recommend us.
Yeah.
So that's our biggest incoming of leads.
It's always great because you said about having customers for life. We always focus on trying to be, this lifetime customer, I think is really important. And when they start referring to you as my mortgage broker.
That's it. Your go-to guy, anything finance. I get people ringing me up about all types of finance that I don't advise on.
Yep.
Because they assume, because I've helped them with their mortgage, I'm the guy they should be asking.
Okay.
Luckily, I work with financial advisors and accountants, for example, and you can pass them off. Again, that's a recommendation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that probably leads on to how we do get other recommendations. So building our network. So our focus has always worked with estate agents.
Yeah.
Okay, so naturally they're going to be talking to clients buying a property. I've been working with lots of agents in the past, knew a lot of agents, including yourself.
Yep.
A few others, built up that rapport, but built up that they'd already recommended me when I was at Halifax, and they carried on doing the same. So I literally walked down Southern Hay in Exeter, and I pretty much walked in every agent I knew and said, I'm James, I've set this new business up. Would you like to work together?
And was that cold calling?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was the response?
I had in my head, if they say no, it's just a no.
Yeah.
So I was fine with that. But I was quite lucky. A lot of them took time. And that's reflected on me. If anyone approaches me, I normally give anyone time to hear them out. I won't always say yes, depending on what it is. But yeah, they were open. It was difficult though. A lot of them did say no.
Yeah.
But
I assume they have existing relationships, did they?
yeah, and I was careful not to. I feel there's enough business out there majority of the time.
Yeah.
I generally, if I ever approach anyone, look, I don't want to disrupt anything you've got if it's good. But if you don't have a connection or it's not working out, did you want to run through what we can offer? And that's what I've just really tailored over the years and just got better at that, I suppose.
Okay. Good. So I'd love to get onto this conversation because quite often, because you had a mortgage broker in our estate agency business, they actually sat there all day long, didn't they, within the business? So
yes.
that they were totally reliant on our leads as lead source.
Yes.
But I think there's an interesting conversation about mortgage brokers and estate agents. There seems to be sometimes, maybe more so from the corporate's point of view, this clash between the two. Would you say you see that or?
Let's be honest, mortgage advisors, will always ask, no matter how much business they've got, for more leads and more clients. Okay.
You were moaning about the bank doing that.
Always going to do it. They're going to sit in their ivory tower. Okay. So us brokers, generally, a blanket is we like to sit there, give the advice, because we feel we can do it and do the mortgages.
Yeah.
Okay. The harder bit is getting those clients in.
Yeah.
So we go out and ask people to give us those in return. So that is the part of the mortgage broker which not everyone, I suppose we could get better at and could be more proactive ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's the clash.
Yeah. It's trying to get so I won't talk about the mortgage broker that we work with because actually he was probably very good. So probably a different kettle of fish. But in the past, certainly when I worked in the corporate world, the constant thing was not enough leads, not enough leads, not enough leads. And then from the estate agent's point of view, we used to call them cuckoos.
Right.
Because they'd sit in the nest, that classic image of that big fat bird sat in a little bird nest with its mouth open, expecting to be relentlessly fed without actually calling anybody themselves or doing anything like that, used to be frustrating. And then the other one was when you passed the lead and they'd say, oh, not good enough, I'm not calling that. Yeah,
I suppose we worked really hard on why would an agent want to work with us? So say I didn't know them, but we've got ones that work with us now. I try to work out why has it not worked in the past.
Yeah.
And generally, it's not that they're not necessarily getting paid for a lead.
Yeah.
It's generally, are they getting updated by the mortgage advisor? And is it going through? And are they being kept up to date throughout the process?
Yeah.
So we've worked out a process that we keep them updated. We have a system to track it and everyone knows what's going on. Because ultimately, that's what the feedback I've got is that's what the estate agent wants to know.
Yeah.
Because that helps with the sale, the chain, and the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because a number of times I'll talk to estate agents and they'll say that I don't do mortgage business. I'm not really interested in the money. I'm more interested in finding somebody that will generally do the mortgage for me or get the mortgage through. That's more important to them, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's from our point of view, because there's a team of 15 of us, that helps with the coverage. So say if someone's on annual leave, because that's where relationships can break down.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't know the answer as a broker, they've got a team behind them that can answer it really quickly. So I suppose the bigger picture there can also help with an agency, depending how many are coming across.
So what should brokers do? Because I think if you think most of the brokers are out there sitting, if there's a mortgage broker sitting in an estate agent, corporate or otherwise, what would be your advice to them to help generate more leads from estate agents?
Although agents and brokers don't necessarily want to do this or don't feel it helps, I would say it's definitely factual. If a broker is in their office,
Yeah.
the lead quality is going to be better.
Yeah.
And the amount of leads is going to be better. And the reason for that is the quality conversations are going to improve, because a broker, if they're in the vicinity of a phone call, they can hear the conversations and they can help coach and maybe give a few tips on what to say, or update the team on what's happening with rates, or, just help with that conversation.
Yeah, the best mortgage brokers have an edge of them that's towards management.
Yes.
Because that's about getting results through others, isn't it? Which I consider management, really.
Well, we say like in the moment coaching, okay? It's not like doing an hour meeting every day. It could be a 5-minute. Oh, it's really good you're talking about that. Have you thought about saying this? What about this? This is happening next week at this lender. This guy's a business owner. Did you know we can use net profit? Mm-hmm. Things like that. We don't want the lead generator to get in too much detail, but naturally they do get asked questions that they have to shield, or at least have a little bit of know-how. Well,
I remember when we did, actually getting a question from somebody was the best thing. And even if I knew the answer, my line was, I don't know, but I know somebody does.
Great question.
Yeah, great question.
James is sat here behind me, actually.
Yeah, let me find out for you, and I'll get somebody, either I'll come back to you or I'll get somebody to come back to you with the answer for that. It's a lead. It's the easiest one in the world. One of the things I do think is that I think anybody sells better if they believe in the product they're selling.
Yeah.
And so I think there's probably an element where mortgage brokers could probably invest in a bit of time in explaining or selling the benefits of the service. Do you know what I mean by that?
100%. We work on it a lot. So just before we started recording, I mentioned about a competitor.
Yep.
Who is maybe posting things that we wouldn't post, shall we say.
Yep.
So I've spoken to my team about, when you're talking to a new client, is not just say, great, I'm going to sort your mortgage out, is explain what they're getting for the service.
Yep.
So you got the support of the admin team.
Yep.
You've got the face-to-face or video call. You've got multiple appointments available. You've got weekends and evenings available to you. Endless amount of benefits.
Yep.
It's not, we'll just sort your mortgage, give us your facts and figures.
Yep.
It is explaining all the benefits.
Yeah, but it's important actually that the estate agent knows that, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. Well, they've got to add value, haven't they?
They need to believe it. It's so much easier to sell something you believe in.
Exactly that. And they have to believe in that broker, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
They have to build up that relationship. And that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you got two personalities there.
Yeah.
So how are they building that up? So yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
How do you see it from the agent side? Like where a new broker coming in?
When I look at it, I just wonder whether both sides invest enough time in that, making sure the belief is there. As you say, you ask for recommendations or reviews, if you like, but sharing some of those reviews with the agent.
Yes.
So that they understand how good that service is, how valuable that service is. And I wonder, and maybe this is from my corporate world a bit, whether, the junior negotiator really understands how important the service the mortgage broker is providing.
Well, I've got an example, Rob, probably won't say names, but when I've done a mortgage for one of your colleagues, through the roof.
Yes.
The amount of leads that have come over.
There you go.
Yeah, so we were friendly at the start.
Yeah.
So it was okay. As soon as I'd done her a mortgage, straight through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she saw the process.
Yeah.
She understood everything I did.
Yeah.
Which maybe some people think brokers just hit a few buttons and there's a mortgage, but that's fine. But she felt the service was good. And that's a great example as well to use with their clients.
Yeah.
To refer across. So yeah, that is very true, getting them to understand.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key to the relationship. And anything that goes against that, when people, classically, things like lack of ownership.
Yes, you hit that.
You hit that all the time, don't you?
Yeah.
I passed you a lead, it's a shit lead. No, it's not. It's a great lead.
Yeah.
Well, how come they've managed to do the mortgage for them and you've not done the mortgage for them? All that sort of stuff just breaks down that relationship and breaks down that trust, that belief in the product or service because you're asking a second party to sell your service on your behalf, really, aren't you?
How do you think how do estate agents want to see that, do you think? Is that from experience, 5-star reviews on Google? Do they want to have meetings?
Yeah,
how's that best taken?
I think genuinely the negotiator sat in the office, because this is not about the guy who owns the business. I want them to do lots of mortgages as well.
course.
You know, you look at someone like, again, this is an interesting one that it leads on to, when I look at the corporate agents, 70% of their profits come through financial services.
Yeah, I know you talked about those figures before. Yes, blows my mind that.
Staggering.
Yeah.
So they're making peanuts per branch.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be worth opening their 1,200 odd branches
Without financial services. Yeah.
It's just,
everyone needs a mortgage broker. So.
There you go. So, but I think they probably get some things wrong, which you can do better. From the negotiator's point of view, they just want to know they're absolutely doing the best by their client. And if they believe that, I think they would push the mortgage broker harder, more.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, I'm watching some guy, and I remember his line where he said to him, he goes, "I'm not giving up on you." He's going, "I'm going to my bank." And he goes, "I'm not giving up on you. I can't let you go to the bank. You know, if you go to the bank in the end after seeing the mortgage broker, I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm not giving up on you." And I thought to myself, what, that guy absolutely believed that he was going to do the best by his client by getting him to see the mortgage broker.
Well, it blows my mind that people go direct to the bank.
Yeah.
You get one option when you can get over 90 for a broker.
Yeah.
The majority of them anyway.
But the market's changed a bit, hasn't it? Whereby actually the majority of people are ending up, but bear in our conversation earlier, where the deals have got better for existing clients, whereby they're sticking with their own bank.
I think the banks are being very proactive in contacting clients.
Right.
So it's probably easier to stay directly with your bank.
Yeah.
But just because your existing bank might be offering you this deal, there's so much competition out there.
Yeah.
There's still better deals to be had majority of the time.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm going to be biased, but with a broker, at least generally it doesn't cost you anything to just get a review of what you've got and what's available.
Yeah.
Like that's the least you should be doing.
Yeah, because if the worst scenario is, I will stick with my bank because it's a better deal.
And a good broker will say that.
Yeah.
Will say, "No, I can't help you. You're in the best place. Carry on as you were."
And it's funny what customers want, because obviously I know the mortgage market and that sort of thing, but I'd much rather use a broker just because I can't be doing with all those forms.
Well, that's it.
Agony.
I know. They're a big thing at the minute, because the rates are volatile as well.
Yeah.
Some lenders don't say if you secure a deal up to 6 months in advance of your mortgage, some don't let you review that if you do it direct. That's it, you're in.
Yeah.
No matter if rates go down. With a broker, a good broker will be reviewing that rate all the way up to your renewal date if a better one comes out.
Funny enough, the lender we're talking about doesn't really use brokers.
No. Very true.
Yeah, but that's a crazy policy, isn't it? But the fact that people don't realise that policy is not normal.
That goes back to education, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting that news out there. And I think that's where the banks really hide that from the public, if you like, because they're only going to win in that scenario, aren't they?
Yeah. Like I say, when they get that service with the broker, I would always recommend it.
Yeah.
I think it's just worlds better than sticking with that. I understand the ease of the bank, and because the current lender has the liability, let's face it, their checks are not as thorough.
No, it could be straightforward. Could be one signature.
Yeah, especially on a remortgage or something like that. It's just
It's your biggest asset, your biggest outgoing.
Yeah.
Do you just want to be signing a form without advice?
Yeah.
You know, if there's someone else better out there, that is the time to be taking it seriously.
Well, I also think that sometimes we're guilty of just looking at price.
Yeah.
Because actually there's lots of other negotiables within there. There is term.
I guess, yeah.
There is products, because there's all sorts of different products. At the moment, would you go for a fixed rate if you're personally doing a mortgage?
Everyone's circumstances are different.
Yeah.
So it's not a definitive answer. I quite like to know what I'm paying.
Yeah.
I feel variables can be a bit of a gamble, but they're right for other people.
Yeah.
So I suppose it depends, but that's why you need advice. You need to talk it through.
Yeah.
You need to know all the options out there.
Yeah.
Because there's more options than that. Why wouldn't you be getting advice?
It's interesting, that shift towards fixed mortgages, isn't it? Because when I go back to the early days of maybe, the 80s, when we had 12% interest rates, we all looked at discounted.
I think that's because of the pricing in it as well.
Yeah.
So pricing's changed, how lenders get their money in. I think certainty is quite a big preference for people now.
Is that because we live in a more uncertain world, do you feel?
I guess so, yeah. And mortgages are, the multiples are a lot higher than the 80s.
Right.
So, we always hear, I had a 50 grand mortgage and it was 15%.
Yeah.
But now we've got a 300 grand mortgage.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger effect.
But it's only 5%.
Yeah.
Actually, as a portion of your salary, it's still the same representation, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think certainty is key, isn't it? And it helps with planning. It's a good basis for advice, really.
Okay.
But fixed rates at the minute, if you ask me right today, fixed rates are about 1% cheaper than a tracker.
Right. Okay.
Which is a variable rate.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have a bit of a prediction of what's going to happen with interest rates? Obviously, at this moment in time, we sit on the 6th of June and we're coming up to an election in a month's time.
Well,
what's your best guess, James?
Everyone's an expert.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just
well, you are an expert, surely.
Well, just because I got a CMAP qualification. But it's very positive. A couple of months ago, the rates were coming down. Swap rates were coming down.
Yeah.
Bank of England kept the rates the same again in the most recent check.
And how do you feel about that? What is your view on that?
We would love it to come down because we feel inflation, as of today, is 2.3.
Yeah.
But then Rishi's called an election. And that has put everything on the back burner, I feel, on rates. So I can't see too much change. So I believe there'll be a change in government. And I don't think the Bank of England will act until, again, more certainty is known once the new government is in place, in my opinion.
So I am staggered that the Bank of England kept the base rate the same, and by the majority that they did.
I think there's only 2 voted for a reduction.
It'd be interesting to see what their personal savings are like, isn't it?
Yeah, probably doing all right.
They're doing great at the moment.
Interesting how their savings rates are now actually all right, but it's taken a while to creep back up. When mortgage rates, they go straight up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's an interesting world. My idea is that actually Rishi might have pulled a clever one because inflation figures come out before the next election.
Yeah.
Combination of uncertainty and high interest rates, I suspect, will give inflation an absolute bashing.
Well, and the norm. Prices are normal now compared to a year ago.
Yeah, what they forget is the reason why we have high inflation is because they rather messed up dealing with COVID. I get it.
That's right.
They hadn't dealt with it for 100 years, so it's quite reasonable to mess it up. But to try and pretend they didn't mess it up and this is somehow everybody else's fault.
That's right. There's a lot of excuses out there, aren't there?
Yeah.
It's called politics for a reason, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're doing things at certain times. It's interesting, isn't it? It'd be nice to see some reductions. I think that will boost the confidence of people moving home.
Yeah.
Not only just reducing rates, obviously, on your monthly repayments, but just give people an insight of things. Hopefully will get a little bit better and a bit easier. But it is still tough.
What's your best guess? And I get it's a best guess, it's a theory of what will happen after the election.
I'd love to see maybe even 0.5% come down. Okay. Because that is at least a reduction.
Yeah.
With, being the level it's been at for such a long time, any reduction I think will be a positive thing.
Yeah.
What are we going into? Was it July? The election?
Yeah.
So that's
July.
half year 2. Yeah, it'd be nice to see that reduction then next year coming down to 4s, maybe into 3s on the Bank of England rate. So a bit of a quicker reduction.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the history of that would be you'd be happy at that.
Yeah.
It'd be great to be at 0.5% again, but I can't see that happening.
Okay.
In the near future.
Not in the near future.
Yeah. So.
But in the long term, I see that happening again.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we were there at 0.5%. And that reason is that there is a huge wave of deflation. The reality is technology hasn't finished affecting the cost of supplying goods or services. It is getting cheaper.
Well, yeah. So I think will get better. The election's slowing it up, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're on our way. We're on our way.
Yeah.
But I think it will come down. It's still positive. There's lots of properties on the market. People want to move.
Yep.
I suppose people know that it can be more flexible with terms on mortgages to make it more affordable. We can look at ways of repaying your mortgage in different ways now.
Yeah.
It's not just there's one option.
No, I mean, the terms changed massively, hasn't it? Back in the day, it was 25 years and that was it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last 25-year new mortgage I'd done.
There you go.
That's not to say, I say it to everyone, the term on the computer, if you like, it's just a number.
Yep.
You can go up to 40 years now. Doesn't mean you have to have that mortgage for 40 years.
No.
You're going to have a lot of changes.
Yep.
If you have children, they're going to leave home, hopefully, I guess. So your income
hopefully
changes.
One day.
One day. You might have pensions, you might have lump sum payouts, you might have inheritance. So many things can happen in life. So just because you go for a longer term, it's not the end all.
Yeah.
And you can review them as and when you want as well.
Yeah, and I think people probably don't make the most of the fact that typically on your mortgage, 10% you can pay off each year. So if you want to overpay, you can do, can't you?
Yeah, so flexible. If that's what I've done throughout my life, really, on my mortgages.
Is it?
Probably had generally a longer term on paper.
Yep.
But, you know, being self-employed, brilliant way of doing it. If you're doing a bit better one month, you can overpay.
Yep.
If you get a car bill in,
yep,
and it's a bit tighter, then you cut back on that overpayment. But then it's more in your hands. So it's all about being in control of your money, really.
That's what I liked about it. So I was recently selling my business. I paid off chunks off a couple of mortgages.
Yeah.
Because they were at a higher rate. And as you say, when we talk about savings rates,
yeah,
it was a much better savings on it's a much higher mortgage rate than it was savings rate. So it made logical sense to pay off mortgage rather than.
Yeah, it's a big question. We get asked that a lot at the minute. Should I save? Should I do a mortgage?
Yeah.
Again, it all depends what the rates are.
Yeah, and a balance between those two things.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's next for the mortgage quarter?
For the mortgage quarter?
Yeah.
Plans this year. So, as I said,
when do you take control of the world?
Well, gradually. So our growth's always based on being sustainable.
Okay.
Okay. So it's always about making sure my advisors have got enough clients. Yep. So it's not about taking on as many as I can.
Yeah, because that must be an issue, mustn't it, for a broker if they come on and there's no clients for them.
Yeah, we're on a self-employed model.
Yeah.
That we promote. It gives our advisors flexibility in their own life.
Yeah.
And they can earn as little or as much as they want, I suppose.
Okay.
But we have to make sure they've got the right amount of clients. But yeah, this year it's always to focus on that. We've got the right support in the background.
Okay.
So we've got a really good case management and administration team.
Right.
So we're bringing a new chap on who's starting in September.
Yeah.
Through the college again. So we'll have we have one apprentice, but 3 others that have gone through that process.
Yeah, and they're still with you?
Still with
learning?
us. Yeah, they got their CMAP qualification.
And are they going to become brokers one day? Is that the...
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
So we'll support them with that. So we invest heavily into that.
Yeah. Make
sure that our service continues. We've got an advisor lined up to join us again this year, focusing in the Plymouth area.
Right.
And we're always looking for remote advisors to tune into us because we've got a really good setup and support network. That's worked really well with a few advisors.
Excellent.
That are based around the country. So that's our near future plans anyway.
Brilliant. James, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sparing your time for me today.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks.
It's always great to catch up with James, but there are a couple of points there that came across from the chat with him. I think one of the interesting ones is that bit about mortgage brokers and estate agents and the relationship, and probably the missed opportunity for lots of independent estate agents. Let's face it, corporate estate agents are really reliant upon that relationship. So there must be something there that we could all benefit from. But I do agree with James and about the fact that actually it's about the level of service provided for your customers. And again, how you can improve that service by including a mortgage element. If you're interested in catching up with James, I'll put his details on the notes below. Please feel free to make contact with him. Thank you very much.